أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. الله سبحانه وتعالى يقول في الكتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتون إلا وأنتم مسلمون. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My dear brothers and sisters, I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is his last and final messenger. Before Ramadan, the imams, yourselves, everybody made a dua: Allahumma ballaghni Ramadan. O Allah, let us reach the month of Ramadan. And Allah answered that dua. We are here on the footsteps of the 27th night of Ramadan. But the question I ask you, what did we do with that dua? The answer of that dua. Where are we? What have we done? Did we just refrain from food and water? Or have we done what Allah said in the Quran when He said, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, decreed upon you is fasting as it was decreed upon those before you, so you may become righteous. Are we becoming more righteous in this blessed month? This month of the Quran? Are we listening to Quran or are we becoming the Quran? Are we learning what's in the Quran? Are we taking advantage of these last 10 nights, searching for Laylatul Qadr? Or did we put all our eggs in one basket saying, you know what, it's on the 27th night? And one of the other things that I notice in Ramadan that's a blessing is the sense of community. We're talking about cell phones, if we can silence that cell phone, inshallah. If we can get together as a community. You know, subhanAllah, for those who prayed Fajr today at the masjid, look around you, this was the congregation. This is how packed it was. This is the amount of people that was here at Fajr, the amount of people that were here at Maghrib, the amount of people that were here at Isha and Taraweeh. That is a blessing. Think about that. This is the community that we have. Not every masjid in America is this packed. So we cannot take it for granted. We need to be welcoming. We do not want to be the reason someone is leaving the masjid. By telling him this or scolding a kid or doing this, going that. Yes, If you see something wrong, you maybe do it with ihsan, kindness. Not with a way where you're going to turn someone off. Do you want that on your book of deeds on the day of judgment? Yeah, I stopped going to the masjid because of so-and-so. So with that being said, I want to give lessons about community. Recently, alhamdulillah, in November, Allah blessed me to go to South Africa. We went we're building water well projects. As most of you guys know, I work at Islamic Relief. And when I was there, I was really intrigued on how the Muslim community was there. Like how sophisticated they were. How big they were. How influential they were. So I want to learn about the history of Islam in South Africa. I was like, when did this happen? And I'm realizing, when I'm going there that they've been around for not years, not decades, but centuries. Centuries they've been around building the Muslim community in South Africa. To the point that 5% of the community there is Muslim. And it started off, they say, the people will say this is the father of Islam in South Africa, Sheikh Yusuf al-Maqsari. Sheikh Yusuf was a noble man, an educated man that was brought as a prisoner with 49 members of his family and friends to South Africa. To Cape Town to be exact. And they didn't want him to spread, they knew he was educated, they didn't want him to spread Islam, so they put him inland. But that backfired. Why? Because where the plantation where they put him in, he started educating the slaves there and so forth. And the slaves became Muslim, and it became a haven for runaway slaves. They would come and learn about Islam from him. He would teach them in the river. This is the 1600s, by the way. The 1600s. And he's teaching them Islam. And that was the first sense of community in South Africa. Fast forward about 100 years, you have Saeed al-Alwi, which they call the first Imam of South Africa. Now, Imam Saeed also came as a prisoner, was sentenced to Robben Island, where he served about 13 or so years. When he was released, he could have gone back to his homeland of Yemen. But instead, he decided what? I'm going to stay here. I see an opportunity to give da'wah. So Sheikh Saeed became a police officer. Imagine that, went from prisoner to police officer. Why did he become a police officer? So he can get the keys to the slave quarters. And every night, he would what? Give da'wah. He'd open up the thing, he would give da'wah, and he'd have these secret Jumu'ahs that he'd hold. They used to say Sheikh Saeed used to work while other people slept. Fast forward a few more decades, you have one of the more famous, figures of Islam in South Africa, Imam Abdullah Qadi Abdul Salam, also known as Tuan Guru. Now, Imam Abdullah was also sent to Robben Island as a prisoner. He comes from Moroccan descent, from North Africa, but I think he was in the Indonesia, Malaysia area. And when he was released from prison, he wanted to start a school. So a Muslim lady gave her warehouse and said, you can teach here. So he was teaching there. He had ambitions. When he was in prison, this is how educated he was. He actually wrote the whole Quran from memory. And that Quran exists today in South Africa. So he said he wanted to start a school. The Dutch wouldn't allow the school. The Dutch were controlling South Africa at the time. But during that time, it changed to the British control. And the British actually were more lenient towards Muslims and allowed them to build a masjid, because the school was already there. And this masjid is called Masjid al-Awwal. Translated, the first masjid. This is the first masjid in South Africa. And that exists today. Me and the 40 people that went with me over there prayed in that masjid. I saw that masjid. I saw where the first Quran was. It's still teaching people hifz. There's a hifz school there and everything. It's a nice, beautiful masjid. Think about the ajr, because a lady who gave him the warehouse donated her land to give it to the masjid. Imagine that sadaqah jariyah, 250 years of people praying and learning and so forth in that masjid. Why? Because she's forward thinking. She's akhirah thinking. She didn't sit there, you know what, I can sell this land and make a lot of money. No, she was thinking for the future. Thinking about building a community. And then we fast forward a couple hundred years. It was a Jumu'ah day like today. We're driving on the road. I'm seeing signs, Imam Harun. I'm thinking we're in a non-Muslim country. Who's this Imam Harun character? So I asked my non-Muslim bus driver. It's like, who's Imam Harun? And he says, oh, Imam Harun was a civil rights activist. He was against apartheid. He was an imam of this masjid. He was a youth director. He went to study in Medina. I was like, wow, subhanAllah, this guy knows a lot. But what's interesting about Imam Harun is he was trying peacefully to end apartheid in South Africa. So he went to seek support outside of South Africa. And when he came back, I'm giving you the cliff notes of this. There's a book you can read to get the more details. When he came back, the South African police force arrested him. And then 132 days or so in solitary confinement, and then he was found dead. South African police force said he fell down the stairs. And the family looked at the autopsy report and saw how beaten he was, and they were like, he did not fall down the stairs. So they said this is not right. And it wasn't, this is in 1970, by the way, 1971. It wasn't until last October that a non-Muslim judge, overturned the ruling and said he was killed by the South African police force. May Allah grant him Jannah. The point that I'm saying all this is that work of 350 plus years built a strong foundation of community in South Africa. Strong community. Ahmed Didat and so forth came out of the community. Like I said, 5% of South Africa is Muslim. You ask them, hey, where can I eat halal? They said, go eat chicken. 99% of the chicken in this country is zabiha. This is the influence they have. I took a tour, one of those double-decker tour buses. I said, you know what, I see them all the time in England. So let me just take one of these here. I had a couple hours. It's a non-Muslim tour bus. They were talking about Islam in South Africa. Here's the Muslim community. Here's the first masjid. Here's this. Here's that. I'm like, subhanAllah. This is the influence they had. They had so much influence that they even, Imam Harun was friends with Nelson Mandela. To the point, Nelson Mandela, the first black president of South Africa after apartheid ended, what did he say in the UN in the 1990s? He said, our freedom is not complete without the freedom of who? The Palestinians. That's why they were the first to stand up for the Palestinians. That's why they went and said, you know what? This is not right. Why? Because they went through this. They know this is an injustice. Non-Muslims are staying for the Palestinians. And speaking of the Palestinians, speaking of the people of Gaza, that is another resilient community. You look at that community. They lead by example. We're learning from them. We see the work that what they're going through, but what? They still stand together as a community. They still help each other. They still take care of each other. Think about all the orphans that are now part of the Gaza community. People aren't leaving in this, nafsi, I have to worry about myself. No. They're what? They're taking them in. The doctors over there, they're helping the patients. They're not getting insurance. Oh, where's your insurance? Oh, we can't help you. They're not getting paid. They're not even getting paid. I was talking to Dr. Abdullah Brown, part of this community. He went on a medical mission there. He said, when I was there, he said, I've heard this before. I've heard that they were the chosen people. And he said, until I was there, I realized how chosen they are. They have a different mentality. They have this akhirah mentality. And he said, when I was there, I felt like I was in Jannah. Think about that. All the rubble, all the death, all the destruction. He was living off half a meal a day, he said. But he said what? It's just, there was barakah in the air, the way that people worked and the way they treated each other. And he said, it wasn't until I crossed the border back from Palestine, from Gaza, into Egypt, that the dunya just hit like that. It's just like we just went from akhirah to dunya. Why? Because the people there have this akhirah mentality. They have an akhirah mentality, which we should start getting, and we should start leading by example. I ask Allah to strengthen our community. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لكم فإنه الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah amma ba'd. For those who came in late, I started off by talking about that Allah has blessed us to make it this far into Ramadan. We made it this far. We're the footsteps of the 27th night of Ramadan. But what have we done? Have we changed ourselves? Have we become a better people? Have we become a better community? I talked about examples of community in South Africa, of how they built a community in 350 years. And I'm talking about also talked about the people of Gaza in Palestine and how they built a strong, resilient community. You know, you see how they come in and they stand against injustice. You see when they allow them to come into the Aqsa, how the Aqsa is packed. I saw it on the last 10 days of Ramadan, the 20th night, how the Aqsa was packed. People chanting. They didn't care. They didn't say, you know what? It might not be good if I go tonight. Instead, they stood there. They said, no, we're going to fill the Aqsa. I haven't seen it in years, since I was a kid, that was filled like that. And this is the type of communities we need to build. In 2008, the U.S. basketball team, the Olympic basketball team, they called it the redemption team. Why? Because the previous Olympics, they didn't do so well. And U.S. thinks, you know, we own basketball. No other country should even come close to us. So they built a team with like Jason Kidd, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Dwayne Wade, and so forth. They put all the stars together. They said, we got this. We're going to build a strong, powerful team. We're going to come back and conquer basketball. So after practice, these guys at night would go out and party and so forth. Everybody except one. One of them stayed back. So when they were coming back around Fajr time, one person was leaving his hotel room with his gym bag and his gym gloves. And they'd say, Kobe, where are you going? I'm going to the gym. Why? Kobe had this different mentality. He called it the Mamba mentality. And the next day, Dwayne Wade and LeBron James didn't want to be showing up, so they didn't go out. They joined Kobe at the gym. And they said by the end of the week, the whole basketball team decided not to go out and started going to the gym. And the reason I'm mentioning that is he led by example. And people followed. We have to do the same thing, dear brothers and sisters. We have to lead by example. We have to sit there and start building these communities. We're in a community that has people. But are we truly a community that supports each other, that motivates each other? This is the community that we have to build. Why? Because we don't have much time. We don't. I was your age, the younger people in the congregation right now. And there was times you felt like you're going to live forever. You're gonna sit there until you're an old age, and I'm ammo, then I can start thinking about and go to Hajj and this and that. But the truth is, you're not guaranteed ammo age. And we've seen that this week. How many janazas have we prayed in this masjid this week alone? Just the other day, I was randomly coming to Dhuhr. I was like, I'm near the area, let me pull in and pray Dhuhr. Janazah. 2 days before that, 2 janazas. I went to Dar Hijrah between that. I prayed janazah 3 days in a row. 4 people, 3 days in a row. And from that, 3 of them were younger than me. Younger than me. One person driving just had a heart attack, 37 years old. We know about the young brother in our community as well. An accident, car accident, motorcycle accident. Dear brothers and sisters, death will not, you can't evade death because of age, because of health, because of what you eat. If it's going to come, it's going to come. What have you done to become more righteous? What have you done to leave a legacy with the community? So with that being said, I'm going to give us 3 action items. 3 action items that I hope every single one of you guys to do today. It's not hard. Very, very simple. The first one, we want to build communities that starts with you. You know, I moved to this community 20 years ago. It's 24 years ago. Wow, I'm getting old. And I didn't move far because I just came right down Route 7. I was on the other side, Dar Hijra, moved up over here. And when I came here, the masjid was smaller, the community was smaller. I knew people by name, first name basis. And these were my friends who that became, as the community grew, more people showed up. And I know less and less names. Less and less people. One of the brothers who passed away, was it yesterday or the day before? I didn't realize he was part of the Adams Ashburn. So dear brothers and sisters, we have to know each other. So the first action item that I have is after Salah, turn to someone you don't know. Assalamu alaikum, my name is Dawood. Dawood Abul Hawa. And he'll tell you his name. And say, what dua can I make for you tonight? What dua can I make for you tonight? My name's Dawood. I'd like you to make a dua for me and my family that we would always be guided and go to Jannah. Whatever it may be. I need a job. I need this. I need that. Whatever dua you need, tell your friend. Tell your new friend. That's the first action item. The second one, speaking of dua, is make dua. Take advantage of making dua. You know what sometimes, and I'm a culprit of it myself. So I'm talking to myself first. I see us sometimes right before the imam gets up, shafa and witr. Half the congregation leaves. And I don't mind, somebody might need to truly run home and get some sleep. He says, I can use this extra 5 minutes of sleep. But most of the time, we're just sitting in the lobby. Hanging out, talking, whatever. I know I made the mistake the other day too. I was like, I'm going to go home, get some Z's. Next thing you know, I'm talking in the parking lot for 2 hours. And we lose advantage of if you don't want to pray witr, sit in the back. Put your hands up. He's making dua, a sincere dua. Take advantage of that dua. Anytime you can take advantage of dua, make it. Then, make dua on your own. Go home, pray 2 extra rak'ahs. Before you sleep. After you wake up, whatever it may make, and in sujood, make dua. You do not know the power of dua. At the beginning of Ramadan, my wife was taking the kids to an iftar, because one of us has to stay with my mother-in-law. She's not feeling very well. So me and my daughter stayed. My daughter was sitting with her there, and I was up working. My daughter calls me, she says, Baba, Tata can't move her legs. So I rush downstairs, and I'm looking and I'm seeing, and she just couldn't move her legs. So I pick her up, I put her into bed. I realize she wasn't feel comfortable, so I pick her up and take her to the couch. And then I said, it was right around Maghrib time, we break our fast. I make a dua for her that, nothing happens to her, especially on my watch. Nothing happens to her, and may Allah give her shifa. Then me and Asya start praying. And while in Maghrib and sujood, I'm making the same dua. And as I'm in sujood, I hear this kind of walking, getting up off the couch and walking. I come out of sujood, and in the corner of my eyes, I see my mother-in-law walking to the bathroom. I said, SubhanAllah. You almost a tear comes down your eyes while you're making a dua in salah, and it's answered in front of you. This is the power of dua, dear brothers and sisters. We have to take advantage of that. Whatever we need, make it. Allah will provide. You might get it instantly like that. You might get it in a couple years. You might get it in Jannah. Allahu alam. But make dua. They will not go unanswered. And lastly, dear brothers and sisters, is give. This community runs with your donations. It runs with your donations. We might think, alhamdulillah, we built the masjid, that's enough. Everybody here rents a home, lives in a home, owns a home, whatever it may be. You have bills. These lights don't pay for themselves. The security guards that are outside don't pay for themselves. The bus that takes you from the parking lot back to the masjid so you don't have to wait in the traffic doesn't pay for itself. Dear brothers and sisters, we have to help the community. Think about what this community has given us. Think about the huffaz who've come out of this community. Everybody talks. I was watching a clip. Somebody was like talking about, mashallah, the imams here. Who are the imams here? Brian came from this community, the Hifz school. Amr Dakin came from this community, from the Hifz school. The people who are leading in this community are bred from this community. And guess what? If you support this community, you're getting that ajr, like the sister in South Africa. 250 years of ajr. You help this community, this could be your sadaqah jariyah. Donating isn't ibadah. Donating doesn't mean, oh, the guy's talking about donating. Let me start scrolling on my phone. No, dear brothers and sisters. When you see the Quran, salah in the Quran, what do you see? Giving, sadaqah, always next to each other. It's a type of ibadah that we need to take advantage. It's not that much. Look at the screen. What, they need $150,000? It should be just like that from this community. Just a little bit from everybody can help cover that. Give what you can. Because dear brothers and sisters, our wealth is our test. You know, I'll end with this story of a man who calls his friend in Gaza. And he says, he's trying to comfort him. He says, this is all a test, right? When you're going through somebody's going through a hardship, you say, this is just a test. And this man's telling the guy in Gaza, this is just a test. And the man from Gaza says, this is not a test for us. He said, we already passed the test. This is a test for the rest of the world. So dear brothers and sisters, we have to do our part to pass this test. We have to build stronger communities, not cause fitna within the community. Instead, empower the community. Ask Allah to help the people who are suffering around the world. Ask Allah to help the people of Palestine. Ask Allah to help the people of Sudan. Ask Allah to help the people of Yemen. Ask Allah to help the people of Syria. Ask Allah to help the people of Iraq. And anywhere that there is suffering around the world, I ask Allah to help them and grant them ease. Ask Allah to grant us good in this world and good in life to come and keep us safe from the punishments of the hellfire. Ask Allah, do not punish us if we've forgotten or made mistakes. Ask Allah, do not place a burden upon us as He's placed on the people before us. Ask Allah, do not place a difficulty in our life that we cannot handle. Ask Allah, do not let our hearts deviate from the truth after you have guided us. Ask Allah, forgive us for our sins and erase our bad deeds and take our souls with the company of the righteous. Ask Allah, please make our families, our parents, our spouses, our children to be the comfort of our eyes. Ask Allah, save us from the punishments of this life, the grave, and the punishments of the hellfire. Ask Allah to please unite our hearts as a family, to unite our hearts as a community, and to unite our hearts as an ummah. Ask Allah to heal the sick among us. Ask Allah to forgive the dead among us. Ask Allah, please make us righteous people and guide us and make us among the Jannat al-Firdaus al-A'la. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافينا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لي فيمن أعطيت وقنا شر ما كديت إنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا واعتدلوا. Straighten your lines. Praises, this is your last prayer. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. الله أكبر. سمع الله من حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله من حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم. Your brothers and sisters, please don't forget, like we said in the khutbah, the action items. Please give whatever you can on your way out. $10, $20, $50, $100, $1,000, whatever you can, give. Because none of us are guaranteed that we will make the 27th night of Ramadan. Give now. Do not say, I'm going to wait till tonight. We've seen examples like today, people who haven't even made it this far. So please give whatever you can. May Allah grant you all Jannah. Jazakallah khair.